Hello my fellow cigar smokers and welcome to Smoker Spot. We are doing another cigar talk and I want to talk about the storing and handling of Cuban cigars. Why? There are a couple of reasons. The first trigger was like 1 or 2 weeks ago, one of my subscribers asked in the Humidor tour video I did, I think last year. He said that he heard that Cuban cigars and non-Cuban cigars should be stored differently, separately. What are my thoughts about that? What I think about it? I answered in the comment that I don't think they should be stored differently or separately, and here I want to explain why I'm coming to that conclusion, and furthermore the handling of Cuban cigars in comparison to non-Cuban cigars. The second reason is very often is you can judge for yourself, but like every 2 or 3 months I have a conversation about Cuban cigars here in the lounge or somewhere else. We're talking about Cuban, non-Cuban cigars, storing, handling, and so on. So I think that might be a topic that's interesting for a couple of people. So I want to cover that. And the third reason is, I think last week I saw an episode from Daniel Ravanelli, hello my friend, where he was talking about, I think he was reviewing a Nomad cigar or an Extra Science cigar, and there was one of the topics where people are smoking the cigars directly after they bought it and not storing it or let it age for 5, 6, 10 weeks or so, and his view on that topic was leave the cigars in a humidor for a while, smoke it then, show some respect to the guys who are doing the cigar. The taste is better, and I agree. And I want to go in a little bit more detail. Also here, difference Cuban cigars, non-Cuban cigars. So my statement is about Cuban cigars. No matter if you like Cuban cigars or not, you have a couple of people who love them and you have a couple of people who hate them. I'm somewhere in between. I like good cigars, and if they are Cuban, fine. If they're non-Cuban, I'm fine with that too. For example, smoking one of my favorite non-Cubans, the Nap Sun Crown. In this case, it's the 466. But guys, so when you watched the Humidor tour, you saw I have one big humidor, and in there are Cubans and non-Cubans. I don't care. I put them in one humidor, and I did it like for the last 25 years. And my experience, my opinion is, no problem at all. You can put them in the same humidor. If you think differently, if you've made other experiences about Cubans and non-Cubans and storing, put it down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts about that. Love to talk about cigars, and I respect all opinions if they make sense. So we all know in Cuba there's a special climate. A lot of people saying best cigars in the world are coming from Cuba. I don't think so. I think they're making pretty good cigars sometimes. Lately not so good. But I'm into Cuban cigars. If they are good, I love them. But I have to tell you guys, my favorite cigars, they are not coming from Cuba. But different people, different opinions, different tastes, different palates, so no judgment at all. If you love Cubans, I'm cool with that. I think a lot of people making a whole lot of noise about cigars and taking a little bit maybe too serious. It's enjoyment, it's relaxing. If you're making a fuss about all that, maybe that's taking away a little bit the relaxation factor and everything and enjoyment factor. So where are Cuban cigars coming from, right? We have to take into account that when we're talking about storing cigars, we're doing that in the humidor, right? And Zino Davidoff invented the humidor. Zino Davidoff died in the 1970s. So if we're taking into account that he's not like that he wasn't like 400 years old, we have to think about how did people store and age their cigars before there was a humidor. And since we're talking about Cuban cigars and non-Cuban cigars, let's talk about where cigars are coming from and how they were stored. So in Cuba, as I said, we have a very special climate. I made some research. We have here in Germany, we have something that is called the Deutsche Wetterdienst, and that means the German Weather Service. And they're taking statistics of the weather in Germany and worldwide. So I checked the Cuban weather for the last 20 years. And there are a couple of interesting facts. Taking the weather statistics from 5 different weather stations in Cuba. Average last 20 years. Here's the interesting fact about the temperature. The coldest months and the hottest months in the year, they are just in average 5 degrees Celsius apart. So that means the temperature in average is very stable. And over the last 20 years, that is somewhere between 25 and 27 degrees Celsius. I'm always talking about Celsius. So that's the temperature over there. Humidity, I planned in here a little diagram where you can see it's very stable over the last 20 years, but even before that. So we are ranging there somewhere in the mid-70s% over the last 20 years. So that's the climate we have in Cuba. Storing cigars without a humidor worked for the last 100 years, couple of 100 years, pretty good in Cuba. It is said that like the first cigar that we can call a cigar, I mean, back when there were just the native Cubans, it was of course just a bundle of tobacco rolled together and they were smoking. But let's talk about cigars how we know it. So cigars that are very close to that what we're smoking today were imported from the British in the 19th century, mid 1800 something. One of the first cigars that we have documents from and so on were known since 1600, I think 51 or something like this. Don't nail me down. I'll put that all of just what I memorized, right? So it was 1650 something, 1640 something, doesn't matter. So, but the British brought cigars from Cuba 1800 something, right? The humidor were invented much later. So, from all we know is they stored the cigars without a humidor in Cuba and they were doing pretty fine. So that seems to be a pretty good climate for storing cigars, right? So now, different people have different preferences. There's a whole philosophy on how to store cigars, right? Some people say it's cooler when you like store it below 70. I don't know a couple of people who store them like with 70 something, you know. It all depends how long is it in there, how often you smoke them, how do you like your cigars, and so on, right? Me personally, my humidor is always somewhere between 68% and 70%, and I have all my cigars in there. And as I said, I'm fine with that. They're all smokable, and they're all doing pretty good. So for me, I see no logical reason why I should store Cuban tobacco differently than tobacco from Nicaragua. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Especially with taking into account a lot of countries, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Honduras, whatever, you name it, Mexico. Very often they have like Cuban seeds, right? They are taking Cuban seeds and put it in the soil in Honduras, Nicaragua, wherever. So more or less all the same. We're talking about tobacco plants, right? And they're pretty robust. And you have to, when you're thinking about it, they are like manufacturing cigars in Nicaragua, Cuba, wherever. And when they ship it to Europe, for example, or China or Australia, United States, whatever, I mean, they're not having a big humidor, right? They put it in the boxes, they put it into the shipping containers, and they on the way for a couple of weeks. So don't take storing cigars too serious. That's all I'm saying, guys. Put it in the humidor. If you have a little bit of experience with cigars and you know how you like it, adjust the humidity upon your preferences, right? If it's 68, fine. If it's 70, fine. If it's 67 or 65, fine. If it's working for you, cool, you know. And over the time you will figure out what's the best humidity for your smoking enjoyment, right? How you like it. But when you're starting like, I want to separate Cuban cigars from non-Cubans, if you're really in that lane, man, you have to have like 4 or 5 different humidors, because then you have to separate also Nicaragua, Honduras, Mexico, Costa Rica, Indonesia, whatever, you know, and Cubans. And guys, really, I think that makes no sense, right? But again, just my opinion, just my experience. If you think differently, let me know. I'm happy to share my experience compared with your experience, and let's talk about it. Handling of Cuban cigars versus non-Cuban cigars, whole different topic. Coming back to what Daniel said, once you bought cigars, put it in your humidor, leave it there for 4, 6, 8 weeks, and after that smoke it, and the pleasure of smoking that cigar will be much better. The performance will be better. Why is that? In general, why is that the case? Cigars, after they're manufactured, usually they stay in the tabacalera, the place where they're making the cigars, for a while before they go to ship it out. And some manufacturers, for example, like Arturo Fuente with their premium segment, they leave it like 2 to 3 years. The finished cigar, right, when it's rolled, they leave it in their storage rooms for 2 to 3 years before they're going to ship it out. A lot of other people, a lot of other manufacturers, they're not taking it so seriously. So the manufacturing cigars, they leave it there and they want to make money and they ship it out, right? So you never know. And they travel a long way in a long time, you know. You don't know the circumstances, the environment, everything else, what they were going through, right? So it's a good idea, leave it in your humidor, that the cigar can like get used to the climate you prefer, right? That you have in your humidor, and it takes some time, right? You should smoke your cigar slowly, and at the same time, give your cigar time to getting better, right? So leave it a while in your humidor. Cuban cigars, however, we all know for the last couple of years they have a lot of problems performance-wise. How they constructed tobacco, it's all too fresh and so on. You're looking at the box. The good thing about Cuban cigars, they always have a box date, right? You turn around the box and you see the box date, and most of the time it's like insanely fresh, like 1, 2, or 3 months old. For me personally, if I'm getting new Cuban cigars, I leave it in my humidor. I'm trying to at least 6 months before I'm going to try that thing, because otherwise you will get disappointed. Very often I'm not patient enough and I'm smoking one, and sometimes you're lucky, but most of the time it's not a very good idea. Non-Cuban cigars, there are a couple of brands that I can smoke instantly. I already mentioned like Arturo Fuente, doing great cigars. You can smoke, for me personally, I always can smoke them instantly, never had a problem, or rarely had problems. Same with Davidoff. The premium cigars, they taking care of their storage where they are treated very good, and most of the time you can smoke them like, I mean, after you bought it, leave it in your humidor for a couple of days, smoke it, never had problems. But for most non-Cuban cigars, a couple of weeks is a good idea, right? So that's my main topics: Cuban cigars versus non-Cuban cigars, storing and handling. And I mean, it's pretty straightforward and easy, you know. And that's about it. Not very complicated. The three rules I have for storing and handling Cubans and non-Cubans. Put it all in the same humidor, not a problem. First rule. Second rule, Cuban cigars, leave it in your humidor for at least 6 months. Non-Cuban cigar, general rule, leave it in your humidor for a couple of weeks. And that's it. That's it. And if you made experience with, like, as I said, Arturo Fuente and Davidoff, or maybe you have other brands that you know that you that are your go-to cigars and you know you can smoke them instantly, fine, do it, right? As I said, man, we're all different, right? We have different palates and everything else, and you need to know, you need to figure out how you prefer your cigars. And if you find your way, that's it. No one cares what other people say about it. Just my thoughts, just my 2 cents about that topic. That's it, my friends. Talk too much. Cigar. Holy shit. All right, guys. I would say, my friends, smoke a good cigar, enjoy life. Most importantly, stay safe and stay healthy. And I hope to see you around at Smokers Bar. Cheers.